The images. We're going to start pretty much from scratch and go all the way through some basic animations. So I have a project with almost nothing in it. I've designed the screen a little bit, and I'm going to drag an image screen element on to my project, and I'm going to make it a nice big square that's 250 pixels by 250 pixels. And I know that to center it perfectly, the screen is 320 pixels wide, minus 250 means that there's 70 pixels, and if I divide that by 2, then I know that 35 puts it in the perfect center, and I'm just going to eyeball the Y position. So now how do I actually get an image onto this screen element? It's blank. Well, I have to set this image property, and I'm going to do it the clickiest way first. Let's go find an image, and I like to go to Wikimedia Commons, and we're going to find, because those are in the public domain, and we're going to find a terracotta warrior. The spelling's close. Close enough to find it. And I just like this guy, this archer down here. So we're going to grab him, and I'm just going to do Control Save Image As, which will download it to my images folder. And then when I go back to AppLab, I can just choose this link from the image property, upload file. So it's now on my computer, and I can just upload that archer head into AppLab, and then I have it. And so then that allows me to choose it, and it pops in, the file name pops into this image property, and there's my terracotta soldier. That's probably the clickiest way, but it gives you the most control because you know exactly what image you're going to get. You have it stored in your AppLab. Maybe a little bit simpler, and one we can also use is you can just go to the image and you can just copy the URL. So we just copy the image address, and I come back to AppLab, and I can then paste that image address, and now the same guy shows up. It's a big difference, though, because this is not saved in AppLab. AppLab is just going out to the URL and grabbing this image and showing it in our project. It's not actually saved in AppLab, saved in our project. So you have a little less control. Somebody on the web could delete that image, and then nothing would show up there. A third way to get an image into your app is to use one of the preloaded icons on this tab right here. And you've got all these font awesome icons that AppLab makes available to you. So there we go. We've got our terracotta soldier. Let's animate him a little bit. Let's say we want to wire up this choose button, or change button, which is called button 1. And we want to put a different image there. So if we want to do that, we could just do an on event, and we could just do a click of button 1. And when we click that button, if we want to change the image on that screen element, we would set the property of, it's called image 2, and we want to set that image property where we were pasting the URL. And we could just then choose what we wanted to change it to. Let's say we want to change it to this guy. So we will copy the image address, and we just paste this here as a string. So we need a quotation mark at the end. And it doesn't really matter how long and ugly it is. If that URL is the address on the web of the image, then AppLab is going to go out and it's going to hit that URL and it's going to find that image. So as long as that's the correct address, it's going to work. And it's complaining because we don't have a semicolon. And to get all the way to the end of that line, we can just do Command right arrow will take us all the way to the end, and Command left arrow will bring us back to the beginning of the line just for simple navigation. And we run that, and on click of button 1, we set the property of that image to this new property. And so we have a simple image animation. Now I want to show you one thing that we haven't done much, but so we're thinking of always clicking the button. We could just click the image and make it change. So if we made this on event, we can make that image clickable. So if we made this on event, the image property, and it's image 2, I believe, then we don't even need the button. We can just click the image and it'll change. So images can be clickable, labels can be clickable, any screen element can be clickable. You just have to put the ID here and say what kind of action is going to make it change. We could actually even make it change on, not on a click, but just when we mouse over it. So if we run it, reset, run, make sure it's all loaded up now, when we mouse over, it changes. So it doesn't have to be on a click of the button. It doesn't have to be a click at all. It can be any one of those event options. So let's take another look at a couple more animations. Or actually, looking at this image, so there's this property here. If we're looking at the image, this fit image property. So right now we have it, the fit image is contain. And so what that means is it's going to be proportionally, it's not going to be reproportioned at all. It's just going to be contained inside the screen element that we have. If we want it, if we take the option of fill, then notice it's going to fill the entire element. And you saw that it stretched it a little bit horizontally to fill it, because naturally that picture is a little bit taller than it is wide. And so it doesn't fill the screen. It would have to be distorted. But if we want it to be distorted to fit that 250 by 250 box, we could do that. So that's fill. Cover. So contain is the picture in its natural state. Cover expands it but doesn't squish it at all. So it just makes the image bigger until the until it fits that exact area. And if we pick the option of none, then it doesn't make any changes to the picture. It just takes the whole picture in its natural size and just shows us whatever portion it can get. So I tend to like cover to fill my whole screen element and make my images all the same size. Or if I really care about how that the image stays in its natural state, then I pick contain. One last thing, there are a couple other things we could animate on this image. So let's just say if we go to the image 2 and let's say we mouse over it, we can change the border. So we can do set property of image 2. We can set the border width. And let's just use our code completion here. So we can set the border width of image 2, and then that's just going to be a number of pixels. So let's just make it a kind of thin border of 2 pixels. And we can also change the border color. So right now it's clickable, but our user has no way of knowing it's clickable. And so if we change the border color, then when you run it and when the user mouses over it, nothing happens because we did something wrong. What did we do wrong? Set the property of image. We spelled mouse over incorrectly. Mouse over. So we reset, run. Now when we hover over it, that border changes. And then it just kind of sticks there, so that's kind of odd. So let's change that. Let's add a mouse out property. So the border shows up when we mouse over it. Let's make the border disappear when the mouse leaves it. So all we have to do is say image to mouse out, meaning the mouse moves out of that screen element. Then we're going to set the border width back to 0, and then I think we don't even care about the color because the border is going to go away. So if we reset and run, we hover over, we get our border, it goes away. And I guess this is kind of why I prefer the image cover option, because the border looks a little bit nicer. When we run it, we mouse over, mouse out, mouse over, mouse out. So there you go, image from nothing to animation. Have fun with that. Thanks for watching.